My dog is incapable of being chill now that all the geese at the lake have baby geese.
I finally had 5 minutes to chill on my patio, then a bird shit on my hand.
The elementary school next to my house is getting a new blacktop, so asphalt teardowns can S all the Ds.
Well, it's been the chainsaw massacre at my place with all the goddamn tree trimming.
Super bloom. Have such a good day. Oh, hello and welcome to Have Such a Good Day, the show that wants you to do just that verbatim.
Exactly. We're trying to improve your day.
And ours as well.
Absolutely.
It takes a village, as
It really
we've said
does.
before. And even then, sometimes it's hard to have a good day. But hey, this is why we do the show. It's Heather and Sarah, and we are
Having such a good time.
Well, we are. Man, spring has sprung. Here,
Super bloom everywhere.
Here, it's Super Bloom. It's just a thing. I just want to yell at people like on the street, like, Super Bloom. The weather's nice. Anybody who's watching our video version, you're welcome, and I'm sorry for being in my workout gear that I hiked in at 7 a.m. this morning.
Well, I'm in my PJs, so we're quite a pair today.
Listen, at least it's form fitting, right?
And we're actually enjoying the great outdoors.
Yes, we are. We're on Heather's patio, as we are every other week or so, and got a good show. Got a good show today. A little bit of a hodgepodge, but that's the point.
That's the beauty of it, really.
We like to think so anyway. You never know
yeah.
what you're going to get. What are they going to talk about? Whoa.
It's a big old surprise.
Hey, so I'll just get into my little, looking back on the past week, and I know that I have hopefully entertained and certainly horrified a few of you with a few of my dating stories of yore.
I always enjoy these immensely, Sarah.
I know. And I kind of enjoy them, at least because I'm like, oh, I'm going to talk about it on the show. But this week I had kind of a weird sitch, and it wasn't anything that was like upsetting, but it gave me pause. And that is that there's somebody that talked to like years ago. Haven't seen him in forever. It never really went anywhere, whatever. No hard feelings, just went away. And, kind of came back up recently and asked if this was like way earlier in the week, like 5 days ago, was like, hey, you want to do something on Friday? And I'm like, okay, yeah. So to me, I'm like, you get off work at, I don't know, let's say if I'm doing good, that's probably about 5 p.m.
Sure.
And then, all right, I'll talk to you between now and then, and we'll kind of make a more concrete plan. Don't have to do it right now. And then I just never really heard from him. And so the day of, I was like, hey, are we still getting together tonight? Just kind of planning my Friday.
Sure.
And he was like, no, today. I thought we were having lunch. And I was like, what? That's on a Friday? Like, first of all, it's a work day.
Yeah, did you go back in your text and be like, did we say this?
Yeah, he kind of just like, he had, because I don't know, there's this whole like, he's vegan, and I was talking about this vegan deli that I know of, and so it's like, I kind of get where he got there, but it was never sort of a, hey, let's get together Friday for like lunch, not like drinks or anything, like midday, to which I would have said, oh, I can't do midday because I'm working. So that day I was like, what are you talking about? Get lunch. It was like 11 a.m. I'm like, I can't get lunch. I'm like working. And then it turned into him being like, oh, I've got plans later. And I was like, well, screw you. So it was just one of those things where it's like, he didn't do anything wrong. It was friendly.
It's communication breakdown.
But a strange one. I feel like in the dating world, if someone doesn't specifically say, let's get together in the morning for coffee, you kind of assume it's more of like a drinks thing.
Like after 6 p.m. sort of thing.
Right, yeah, or, you get a bite to eat, or you do something in the evening when people are sort of done with work.
It's funny, like in his head, he's just like, that's what he wanted to do and never said it. So he probably rehearsed it in his head and then never actually wrote it to you.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're not psychic.
I was just like if I hadn't checked in, would you have just like waited for me at the deli and I wouldn't have come because I can never have lunch in the middle of the day because I'm fucking working?
It just proves that people have different time management, and people have a different, like he's probably like in the moment all week, didn't think to, a lot of people don't look ahead.
Yeah.
They live in the moment. And I think men do in particular. I really am making a generalization, but I think women tend to be a little bit more in their heads, and he probably thought he said something, and, but it is frustrating.
Again, nothing was weird about it,
Yeah.
but I was just sort of like, oh, I would have told you like way at the beginning of the week that like that time doesn't work for me.
So did he have plans Friday night? He couldn't meet up?
I really didn't get into it with
Okay.
him, but yeah, it turned into sort of like, oh, I thought we were doing lunch, and then there was no follow-up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Good stuff.
Hope you enjoyed your Seitan pastrami without me, even though I'm the one who told you it was really good.
I got to try that sandwich.
Yeah.
We got lots of good food in our neighborhood. It's like, oh man, I mean the tacos.
It's blowing up.
Yeah,
it's
good
yeah, with more on the
good
way.
stuff on every
Heather
corner.
and I we're #blessed. Speaking of blessed, how was your week?
It was actually quite good. There's always ups and downs, but I actually started a new project. I can't get into it too much yet, but it took my time full time this week, and that we talk about this a lot. We have flexible schedules, which is so nice. You can, take your dog for a walk in the middle of the day. You can maybe cut out early and go to a matinee or whatever, which is what I'm sort of used to because I work in little spurts.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, this was a little bit more of a 9 to 6 thing.
Yeah.
I had to get up and go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
yes.
then
Many of you will know this feeling.
Yeah, being that part of the workforce again has been a trip because it's been the longest period of time that I've not been part of the workforce, and I have a lot of friends that call me to gripe about being part of the workforce,
Sure.
And so I'm like, don't envy that. But, there's something, I think there's literally pros and cons to both. They're apples and oranges.
Yeah.
There's great things about, being part of a new team. I met so many new people, cool, awesome, interesting, creative people this week. Had some, really interesting meetings, good crew. But I definitely felt like my time became something so different for me this week. Is like
Sure.
I had none of it.
Basically, you have 3 hours once you get home from work to do everything, and then you just go to bed.
Because I
got to
go to bed like
Yeah.
10ish, because if I'm getting up at 7, I want to have a little bit of a morning before I have to get in the car,
Sure.
which only gives me a tiny amount of time to just like think and just like put dishes in the dishwasher. I mean, it's boy.
Oh, I know. We're preaching to the choir here, but it's true. It's funny. It's the having a 9 to 5, so to speak, 9 to 6.
Yeah.
Is challenging because it's like you're just gone. That's
Yeah,
where
you're gone.
That's where the majority of your life now happens.
Absolutely.
But not having that and putting together the mishmash of your own schedule, which we've talked about ad nauseum, and how difficult it is, certainly for me, is tough too.
Oh, totally.
You
In
know?
like a different
like-
way, you go crazy a little bit.
Well,
Like, it's-
I also, you can make your own schedule, but it's like the hour that I take my dog for a walk in the middle of the day on a Wednesday, that becomes an hour on Saturday night.
Yeah, exactly.
Where I'm like, I'm effed if I don't, like you got to make it up somewhere.
You do, and-
so you end up working just all the time.
You do, and managing my freelance schedule is a lot of work, and it's different. It's like, sure, you're managing a schedule within your full-time whatever it is, but it's different. It's like, you have to like really plan out your week, or you can, stare at the wall for a while. But I wanted to mention really quick before we move on, bonus topic.
Yes.
At the end of the show, we'll keep rolling for $5 and up patrons. You can listen to us talk for about 10 minutes longer, approximately, about get a little deeper on a particular topic. The one that won the poll this week is, if you were arrested with no explanation, what would your friends and family assume you had done? This is super fun.
Okay.
We're going to marinate on that for the next 30 minutes.
I love it. It's like, if you were dropped on the planet Venus with no explanation, what would your mom say?
That's next week's topic.
It's good. All right, we'll start with jail. A night in jail. Good. Very good. Very good. Perhaps also in Bangkok.
Yeah.
My dad had that on a 45.
What?
One night in Bangkok. Murray Head. You know the song.
Oh, yeah, of course.
It one hit wonder to the extreme. Really weirdly, like he just really liked that song.
And did he only have one 45?
Yeah, like it wasn't. No. I mean, we had lots of 45s in the house, but like he didn't like get whatever album that was associated with. He just had the 45, which is a single, and then a B-side, you know? Just weird. I don't know.
I love that.
just came to me. All right, so moving on. And yes, $5 and up patrons. We will have a bonus topic for you later in the show. Keep your eyes peeled for that
listening.
one, and think
it's
about
be
what
real fun.
think about what your response would be as well.
Because we want to hear about that.
What will your parents say you got arrested for? Think hard. You've got roughly 40 minutes. Okay, so there was a great article that, of course, resonated with me because I'm an only child. I don't have siblings. It's just me. This is from Refinery29, which, if you don't read it, it can be pretty clickbaity, but it also is, it's, I don't know, entertaining and cultural zeitgeist, and there's plenty of stuff on Refinery29 that I'm like, I'm going to read this. It resonates with me, whether it's health or beauty or, social stuff or whatever. This particular blog post was about only children. It was written by somebody who is an only child. I was about to say identifies as an only child. No, that's what she is. And a woman who was sort of like, over time I've kind of wondered how that plays into relationships, especially like if they're going well or if they don't end well, and like what that has to do with me, because there's a lot of stereotypes and I'm used to this. People saying like, oh, you're an only child, like you're used to getting a lot of attention. You're not good at sharing, or you're there are just certain things where it's like there's many grains of truth in that, but it's also stereotypical. I was always really close with my parents. I know only children who have weird relationships with their parents.
Oh, for sure. Me
Contentious at best. So it's like, that's not really what it is. It has a lot to do with, and I don't mean to make this too much about my own personal experience, but the article went into a lot of kind of like, okay, like what's the sharing thing about? Well, you were used to growing up having your things. Unless you're sharing like toys with your parents, you don't do stuff like that. And so, if you're socialized properly, like you're going to be an okay kid, but there is something to that.
Did you have play dates?
Well, we didn't call them play dates, but both my parents worked. So it was like after school, I went to like somebody's house where there were like 20 kids running around in the backyard for a few hours before my mom could pick me up. Like I was always with a bunch of other kids. So that wasn't really it. But, at the house, unless somebody's over, you get used to doing a lot of your own stuff. I read a lot of books. Why not? Yeah, you can be quiet and read some books for 90 hours, on a weekend, that sort of thing. But I thought that the article was, it was interesting because she, and I don't know how much of this was posturing, but let's just, say that she did all of the stuff. She had a argument with a boyfriend about something really stupid. Like he had eaten some food out of the fridge where she was like, that was my food. And he was like, you're an only child, and she's like, yeah, but that was rude still of you, that kind of thing. And then went back and talked to boyfriends past and been like, was the only child thing something that like you noticed or was shitty, or did I do like were there patterns that I had that definitely called themselves out as being only child syndrome? And she got a bunch of different answers, but I thought I would ask you, Heather, because you are a sibling, you've got a sister, because to me I'm like, I don't know any different. I don't know what it's like to have a sibling. That sounds really weird to me. Like there just isn't one. So like, what would that person be? Would they be nice? Would I get along with them? Oh my God.
Well, it's funny because I think maybe, obviously you have a lot of close friends, but maybe I'm somewhat close-ish to a sibling to you because we've known each other for so long. You have other friends you've known for longer.
Right, but you're not my sibling.
No, of course not.
Like that. It's like you're a very good friend of mine. But I'm like, I don't know how it would be if we were like sharing the DNA type stuff.
Here's the thing. Me and my sister, there's a lot of ways that we're similar. We have a similar sense of humor and outlook on life, but there's a lot of ways our lifestyles are different. Like we have a lot of differences. But at the end of the day, we talk on the phone a lot. We don't see each other as much in person as I would like, but we're very close, and we commiserating about our parents. Like when my mom says something weird,
right.
It's like, it's the funniest thing in the world. It's like, there's a serious bond. And, when we were kids, we got along until we were about 11 or 12. we had lots of imaginary worlds where, we were the richest women in the world. We used my mom's old checkbooks. We did these weird things in like the hot tub where we were like drowning in like the rapids, and we had like these whole little worlds that we created together. But we don't do that now. But it's nice to have those memories. But we didn't get along for a long time, like in the teen.
Sure,
it was pretty bad.
Well,
but
and
we're now very close.
I remember a really good friend of mine. Like she was like one of my best friends in junior high. Her sister was like 4 years older, and like they would fight, and like I was always sort of like, like, what's the upside here? Because like they really didn't like each
really
other
bad.
because they were just different kids, and there was enough of an age difference that like it was like when the sister came around, you'd be like.
Well, I know a lot of people too that have siblings, but there's so many years in between them that they essentially were raised alone.
Yeah, that's true.
I know several people who aren't close to their siblings because of that.
Right, or or there's a second marriage, and so there's just a big age difference. Happens all the time. Yeah, I've definitely heard that too. It's funny to me because again, this is something that like this is just the way that my life is. I don't really think about it all that much, but. There were certain things, again, in this particular article that I was like, yeah, that's kind of me. It's almost like reading your own horoscope where you're like, I don't really want to generalize, but like, it's kind of me. And I wonder, how much anybody can escape that, like nature versus nurture sort of stuff. And just sort of the weird dynamic of like, do you get along really well with your parents? I am proud to say that I did, even though I had some bad teenage years for sure. But at the same time, it's like, does that put like my future relationship on such a pedestal that I never get there? And that's something to think about too.
Well, I think that no matter what, what kind of cards you were dealt in this life or what decisions, paths that you take, you're always missing out on something.
Yeah.
So even if you have siblings, no one knows what it's like to be an only child. I mean, there's something really special about that. It's like the apples and oranges thing. It's like, we can't have all of the life experiences that are out there.
No. It's just, it's funny to me that we spend, especially on this show, but just in general, like so many of us as humans kind of navigated our way through life, think about like relationships and like, are we doing the right thing? Is it the right person? What's the magic formula for me? Blah, 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 blah. And so much of that is like tied to your childhood.
It really is.
And some of it you have control over.
Yeah.
Some of it is changeable, some of it isn't. And that navigation for me anyway is like, and I have not figured out the formula at all, but I constantly try. It's just, that's why two people might not like each other, even though there's absolutely no reason not to. It's just kind of the way it goes sometimes.
It's a total crapshoot, and you never know what kind of second kid you're going to have. They could be, they could be so much similar to the first one, but oftentimes they're very different.
Yeah.
I think that's very common.
Yeah.
And yet there's so many reasons why people connect and why they don't connect. And it's just the whole thing is a crapshoot, Sarah.
Well, all y'all only children out there, shout out to you. We're all kind of weird. We don't like to share. Overly independent, but like super clingy also. So you know who you are. And that's all I have to say about that. Heather, okay, the next story, it's great because I actually am walking in blind. I don't know what this is.
I know how much you like acronyms because you'll drop some acronyms sometimes. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but you use acronyms in your just it's articulation.
Like Urban Dictionary.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no, I do.
Well, I appreciate that you didn't look it up. So
no, I didn't.
I am so fascinated by these different weird YouTube, or little cultural movements, like people glom on to something and then it becomes this big thing like online.
Yeah.
So I had a meeting this week with a company that does a show about this particular subject matter.
Okay.
And so that's what sort of triggered my thinking. The acronym I'm referring to is ASMR, and it stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response.
Oh.
And in simple terms, it's basically like a feeling you might get on like your skin or your back of your brain. It's hard to articulate what this feeling is because it's probably different for everybody. But like when you hear someone whisper or you pop bubble wrap,
okay,
or you're tapping with your nails on something that sounds kind of neat. And it kind of just like, you kind of like it.
So this is a good feeling, not a bad feeling.
It's a great feeling,
Okay.
yeah.
So this is not my velvet coat hangers from, where I'm like, no, like that was like a
it's maybe
skin
the
crawling
opposite
thing.
of-
Okay.
yeah, so this is
it's
more
a
like
good skin feeling.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's sort of like a soothing, sounds. Okay, like for example, maybe you're playing with Play-Doh and the feeling, the tactile experience, playing with something slimy, or kneading bread, and everybody has different pleasures. And so like even like brushing hair, not just someone brushing your hair, but watching someone brush someone's hair kind of thing. It's like
security blanket stuff.
Exactly. It's like a tingling sensation that creates euphoria. And you might not even notice.
I'll tell you, the car alarm is not one of those things.
No, definitely not. But like maybe the wind rustling through the trees,
Something, yeah, where it's like very special to you.
Yeah, and it's supposedly it hits you in the back of the head and travels down your spine and limbs, and it gives you a relaxed feeling or sense of well-being is really the in a nutshell. So again, whispering, relaxing hand movements, smacking the lips, maybe turning pages. Nail tapping again on tables, whatever.
That's the
sounds.
worst sound. I'd kill somebody for doing that. Stop it with your hands.
It's funny. So I read a part of a New York Times article that talked about this movement. So basically, it's become so big that this big media company has a show about it, where basically they bring hip hop artists on and they talk about their ASMR like fascinations or like obsessions, which I'll
wow, okay.
So it's funny. So doing my research, I'm fascinated by how big this is on YouTube. It's like people are obsessed about it. There's one of the most famous YouTubers doing videos on this ASMR stuff is a girl. She goes by ASMR Darling. She has over 2 million subscribers.
What does she do?
All of her videos are a simple shot of just her kind of with different objects, like with her face on camera, doing this and playing with different material, whispering, all kinds of things. But the funny thing is, it gets weird though. Those are all the real general.
I feel it sounds like it's like a nursery school nap time.
Absolutely,
kind of stuff.
and she makes about $1,000 a day. I mean, her channel it's insane. It blows my mind. So in this New York Times article, the guy he did extensive research because he's writing about it. Here's some that he came across that were like a little more out there. Women chewing gum, swallowing octopus sashimi. And again, I'm sure that the cute woman vibe is a huge part of it. I mean, if it was like some ugly dude doing it, it wouldn't be as like positive.
Well, I mean, isn't it the sound that you like, or do you like the watching of the person doing it too?
Both.
I guess it depends on the situation.
There's actually ASMR gets a little deeper than I'm explaining. It's like you.
I mean, yes, clearly this is like, if this is a real thing, it's like it's not about tapping on a Coke can. Like there's more to.
So it could be you kneading the dough, or it could be you watching someone kneading the dough. Like that gives you pleasure, but it doesn't give you pleasure to touch it. So there's different layers. So like there's like a teenage girl like role plays as like a 14th century nun treating someone for bubonic plague.
I don't
There's some
know.
pleasure from that.
That's getting porny.
Hair dryer sounds might get you off. Oh, peeling dried glue like off your hands.
And just I may be asking an obvious question that other people might wonder as well. This is not a sexual thing, right?
It can be.
Okay.
It can be.
So it's
not,
like...
I wouldn't say that it is 100% that.
Okay.
But it can be. And I think that...
Well, pleasure is, that's a big word, right?
Yes.
I mean, so it's like this could be a sense of well-being, or maybe something that's veering into...
Yeah, like I stumbled...
More of a role play type thing.
Yeah, and I stumbled upon one where this like, South American pretty girl was whispering in her accent, like in a sexy way. And like that was an ASMR thing, like for some people. So I think everybody has different ASMR triggers. So I know maybe it's premature to ask you what you think yours are.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, what's funny is like some of the stuff that you were mentioning as you were explaining ASMR off the bat, I'm like, ugh, like repetitive noise, a tap, 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 like where somebody clicking their pen is very annoying to me. Like I would have to leave the library, or like tell them to stop. it's just it's repetitive noise, you know. Even a dog that's barking regularly long enough, I'm like, the dog needs to be eliminated. Like something has to happen, or I need to go deaf. But that's all, you know. That's very auditory stuff. But you know, it's weird when you said brushing of hair. It's like, I'm not sure how much I care about anybody else getting their hair brushed, but it's one of my favorite feelings.
It's like the sound maybe that you hear.
It's just it's the light tugging. You know, if someone's braiding my hair, you know, or like for a while, like they're just touching. They're just kind of in there. Great feeling. Always loved that. And I know I'd share that with a lot of people because it's like, that's why like when I have to be at the hair salon for 3 to 4 hours, I'm like, that's what I'm doing on Saturday. It's fun. You know, like you're just, somebody's fussing over you. But I don't know if that's really ASMR and more of like the feeling of getting pampered, which is probably, there's some overlap, but
there's some
different.
Overlap. I think that I'll tell you a few of mine that you know, it's funny because I didn't come across any of the ones that I felt in my research, and I thought, well, I assume this is ASMR, but I really love stepping on like you know, dry leaves and like dry little things that pop or like whatever on my feet. I enjoy that a lot.
That's how I feel about at the beach when you get the right seaweed and it explodes under your foot.
I love it.
Oh, it's the best.
I know. See, that's ASMR.
Okay, so maybe that's what that's
like, and maybe popping like packing, you know, bubbles is like a very obvious one. Also, like I remember this from Amelie, but I enjoy this too when I'm making rice and you have to like rinse it, and you know, she puts her hand down into like a bag of beans, of dry beans. That, I mean, she was definitely, you know, you could tell she was deriving pleasure from that.
Sure.
And I get that too. Like certain things that I'm cooking with or doing like in the kitchen,
it's like put your hand in the bag.
Yeah, well, it sounds really weird, but sometimes when I get like a really good fresh cabbage and like you break off like certain parts of it that are really crisp.
Yeah.
Like I kind of like the feeling of breaking it with my hand.
And it breaks like in the right place.
Yeah. And it has like a sound, and there's something satisfying about that. But it's pretty extensive, and I went down a rabbit hole, and I'm fascinated by it. I thought you would like it too.
Yeah. Yeah. I really will have to think about, because it's funny. It's like, I'm pretty aware of the stuff that I don't like.
Sure.
You know, like
styrofoam.
A sensation. Well, you're the one who has a styrofoam problem, but no, I don't like it either. But yeah, there are certain just sensory things that they literally make my skin crawl. Yeah. You know, and you know, I mentioned the velvet hangers. It's like they're like, I have to like struggle to hang up my stuff because
I should get some new hangers.
Well, I know, or just like get over it. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, there are other things that I'm like, oh yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that. But I'm not totally sure what.
Oh, here's another one.
Because I think the obvious stuff is like, I like getting my feet rubbed, but like that's what everybody. That's a massage.
Beyond that, it's more like okay, here's an example, because it can be auditory too. So like, there's a church where I'm working in Pasadena, and at like noon, the church bells go, and it's like a really pleasant. I love it.
We've got a church right down here, Heather, that does the same thing.
It does
every hour on the hour.
Oh yeah, maybe not
in the middle of the night. I don't know. I'm never awake, but. Yeah.
Every hour on the hour.
Yeah,
I don't recall that I hear that.
Yeah. At the half hour, they just do the one, and at the hour, they do whatever time it is.
The one by the lake?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm too far away.
It depends on the wind, because I don't always hear it at my house. Like the wind has to be blowing a certain way. But yeah, like, you know, we got a little lake area near us where Heather and I both hang out. But yeah, I mean, because I'm walking, like in the morning, it's like if I hit 30 or the hour, it's like, oh, this is really nice.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. I actually wish that things like chainsaws and were jackhammers gave me ASMR, like pleasure.
Oh man,
you know,
wouldn't that be nice?
If anyone of you out there gets pleasure from construction machinery, please write us at hi@havesuchagoodday.com.
The sound of violence,
gunshots,
really gets you
sirens.
going. Yeah. Helicopters. Always a plus.
Or even like the like European sirens are so like interesting because they're so different, you know, than the ones in the United States.
Also,
and I kinda like the noise.
And the sound changes as soon as it passes you, where you're like, how did that go down like several octaves? It's just a weird, like,
super interesting. Yeah. Anyway, I love this topic, and I have a feeling you're gonna go down some rabbit hole this week about it.
Oh, good, because I have so much free time to think more about my ASMR. Can't wait. Hey, what I also can't wait for is to know a little bit more about you, the patrons. Ha ha! You didn't know what I was going to say, did you? Patreon.com/have such a good day. That is where we
live and breathe.
We live and breathe. We've built a community. It continues to grow.
Ad-free.
We're completely ad-free. And the whole idea with Patreon, if you're new to the show or new to the platform or both, is that we gather money from the community every month. And we have a variety of tiers depending on what you're comfortable or able to pay. Starts at just $1 a month.
Mm-hmm.
$1.
One tiny dollar.
100 pennies.
That's less than $2.
I probably have 100 pennies in my purse right now. Man, my purse is getting really heavy. But yeah, the Patreon we've made it a really nice little home for ourselves. So if you're not familiar with all of the stuff that we've got going on there, check it out.
Check it out, and we just added another little perk for the $5 tier, and that is each week you are going to get we're not going to give you any hints, it's going to be a random video from, maybe an adventure that we went on of us walking through the wildflowers, or maybe Sarah walking Otis in the park, or it could be something completely different than that, but we want to give you a little extra piece of video that is kind of, just get a peek into our lives. And so for $5, you get that plus other things. And I say it's well worth it.
I agree.
One coffee a month. That's how much that would cost to get that much content.
Yeah,
to get our bonus topic video.
Less than a coffee, depending on where you're getting your
pretty
coffee. Much. Speaking of coffee, can I just say one thing? The first time I ever experienced this was at Dunkin' Donuts. And I know some of you are Dunkin' people, and so what I'm about to say is heresy. However, it was like, I had just never been to one before. I was in Boston, and I ordered, like a friend of mine is like, oh, you got to get the like vanilla, it was like some special flavor. It was coffee. And they put the cream in it and then gave it to me, and I was like, but how do you know how much cream I want? Like the whole thing was like super backwards where I'm like, what? I just have to take it like this? Like, and everyone was like, Sarah, shh.
You didn't say anything?
That's the way they do it here. That's the way they do it here. Well, apparently that's just the way that they do it. So I just, was like, okay, I'll survive. Yeah. But like, don't like that. And then I've noticed two places that both serve very good coffee around our hood. Mm-hmm. They'll remain nameless, but both of them, they'll say like, do you want some room? And I always say, oh, just a little bit, because I really only need a little bit.
And you want a lot of coffee. You want enough coffee.
Yeah, I just, a splash. Like, don't worry. In fact, like, fill it up what you think is all the way, because I can always, like, work it out.
Of course.
And both places will be like, oh, do you want, like, regular milk, oat milk, soy milk, almond milk, like, all the milks.
Cashew milk, hemp milk.
I'm actually on an oat milk kick.
Yeah, me too.
It's just, it's working out for me. But I'll say that, and then they'll give it to me, and I'm like, where's the milk? And they're like, oh, it's in there. And I'm like, whoa, that's a little presumptuous. Like, when I say just a little, like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, you
like,
might
we need
want
to
a
like
little
get
more
our
than
ruler
that.
out and like make sure we're both on the same page about this, because sometimes it's like it's too much. Then the coffee's like a little too cold, or it's just the consistency. I don't know. I'm being weird right now, but it's a thing that I'm like, I don't want to say anything because it's like, that's the way that you're doing it, and I'm glad to have the coffee.
And I think some people probably like it being taken care of for them.
Sure.
Like, we're divided on this,
It's just not
I'm sure.
ever something I would, like, bring up because it would make me sound like a crazy person. But on the inside, I'm like, wish you would have let me do it. I can take care of my own milk. Thank you very much.
If you asked if you could do it yourself, do you think they would? Because they have the milk behind the counter, so you kind of don't have that option.
I'm sure they would. Yes. I guess that's an option for me going forward. Or I could just talk about it on the show week after week.
Let's do it.
And how it's slowly driving me to insanity.
Among other things.
Yeah, right. All right, so before we move on, I got some new patrons, Heather.
Oh, yeah. And this is, I'm only calling out a few, but I want to start calling you guys out each week because we're so happy to get new patrons.
It's like Romper Room back in the day when like you might hear your name at the end.
Actually, I have a good ASMR. When we get like a little ping from Patreon where they send an email saying you have a new patron, and there's a little,
the sound of money.
And there's a little ta-da little emoji, the one with the little, it's like a confetti thing. Yeah. And they put it on there every time you get a new person. And
Yeah.
I get a good feeling. I'm like, I get a little tingle down my spine, and super happy
It's like when
about.
somebody throws a 1 at me, I'm like, thank you. I liked that feeling.
Exactly, because that happens all the time.
Well, you don't know what I do after hours, Heather.
This is true. I don't. Sometimes I'm concerned. But we're very happy to welcome George Ray, Devin Biondi,
What up?
and Odie Bob.
Odie Bob.
Such great names.
Yeah, I mean,
Welcome, guys.
Yes, welcome, and we'll do more of this. You're going to get more patron name shout outs, unless, of course, you don't want us to do that, and then you just would have to tell us that beforehand. But come on, think of it as your own confetti, ASMR, happy little moment. But yeah, I got to say, Odie Bob, pretty cool name.
Super cool name.
Your Odie and my Odie, which is my nickname for Otis the
Should
dog.
become pals.
They're spelled differently, but I like the way Bob's doing it. So
Love it.
Good times. We mentioned that we've got some parks and lakes and outdoor stuff near us. Heather and I both spend a lot of time on a variety of these trails. They're really cool, and you just never know who you're going to run into. So this morning I'm doing this loop that I do, and it's great because it's like technically you're not supposed to have your dog off leash, but everybody does.
Everybody does.
And my dog he can be a little like, he's a big dog, so like when he gets running, people are like, whoa. But like he's not aggressive and actually kind of ignores everybody and just wants to run around. And so it's great for us. This morning, it was just weird. It was like, and again, I was up there early, almost to the point where I thought I'd kind of have it to myself, but I didn't because, I don't know, it's Sunday and people were out and about and everybody was friendly. But there was, I ran across a group of women. It was like a mom and a daughter and I don't know, it was like a family, but it was all females, and they had a dog on a leash who Otis tried to hump, which is like horrifying and like mortifying to me because he doesn't really do stuff like that. But then as soon as we kind of separated them, they were like, sorry, she's in heat. And I'm like, what is she doing up here then? Like with all these dogs running around, like my dog is fixed, but there was something going on there.
Sure.
Kept going, ran into a celebrity. Again, I'm not going to mention her name because, I mean, it's just she doesn't need me to do things like that. But, like, somebody that I was like, ooh, oh, my gosh.
Like a good one.
Yeah, like a really good one. And we just
I'm super jealous.
We kind of talked about our dogs for a minute.
So fun.
And I just pretended like, I don't know you. We're just two ladies doing our
those
thing.
Dogs just like easy conversation starters. I need to get one.
Right. And then as I was, and again, this was like a several mile hike. I mean, it takes a few. And as I was kind of getting to the end, and Otis is just being a brat because he knows that we're getting to the end and he has to get his leash put back on him and whatever. Then I run into this other group of women, and they're like, everybody was super nice, but they were like, oh, put the leash back on the dog because there's a guy up the way and he's freaking out about dogs being off leash, which technically they're supposed to be on leash, so it's like, I mean, we're all like breaking the rules,
of course, and
I think it's just assumed that like if you're breaking the rules, your dog better be cool, and I was sort of like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, whatever, and they're like, no, seriously, he's losing his mind up there. Where I'm like, what?
Did you see him?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I passed a few people after that.
And you put him on a leash?
My dog was on a leash at that point. We were almost at the end anyway, which so it wasn't like that weird. Yeah, but like every man I passed, I'm looking at him like, were you the crazy person? Like, are you mean mugging me right now? Like, it was just one of those things where I was like, okay, from 7 to 8 a.m. this morning, like I had quite an adventure because sometimes that walk was pretty leisurely. Today it was full of action.
Nice.
Yeah, so we got celebrities. We had confused doggy hormones, angry people, and it was just and a real super bloom action.
Oh yeah,
man, that trail is almost like getting to the point where it's like it's like the secret garden, like closing in on itself.
Yeah, I think I posted some photos on Lens. Literally, it's just like every time I go out there, which is every few days, it's like grown over more.
Yeah,
it's grown pretty fast.
Oh, one more thing, and this is crazy. Okay, so like I said, a lot of dogs, just people and dogs. Like that's and jogging and the whole thing. It's great. There's a woman who had a couple dogs. and they're both just sort of trotting along. And one of them had what almost looked like a beekeeper helmet
Weird.
on. Yeah, where it's like a mesh thing
Yeah.
over the head.
Interesting.
But like not, it wasn't a muzzle. It wouldn't be anything that would keep the dog from like biting something. Like it was just sort of like literally looked like mesh kind of. And I couldn't help myself. I was like, what is that for? Because there's my dog will wear a gentle lead. It helps chill him out a lot, but that's not the same as a muzzle.
Sure.
You know? And so I was like, is this like some new thing? And she said, it's because of the foxtails.
Ooh, interesting.
Because
yeah.
there's certain dogs who just like they can't help themselves, and the foxtails get stuck on their nose or their ears.
It could like puncture their brain.
Well, or you know, and I actually remember this as a kid. Dog, like I don't know, my dog Rosie, I think like had to get like a foxtail surgically removed from her ear because it was like an issue, you know,
God.
and like it was like hurting
That's
her and blah
crazy.
blah blah. Yeah. So this woman, and the woman seemed a little cray cray for other reasons, but I'm like, oh wow, so that's just like the way you guys walk, you know? And she's like, yes, and it's going to be very dangerous this season because of the super bloom.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah.
I love this whole super bloom thing.
Right.
It's just ridiculous.
Where I was like, I mean, okay. I mean, my dog can probably run through some foxtails without them like jamming up his,
Sure.
you know, his nose and everything. But
might be a little over the top.
it was some. I learned something new, and now, and I think probably she's probably had the situation happen. Well, once is enough, but enough times for her to be like, "This is what we're doing." The
Yeah.
dog seemed fine, just weird looking.
I love it.
It's just a strange
Hey.
apparatus.
You know what? Then they can go home. He doesn't even have to take it off, and they could do some beekeeping.
There you go. Yeah. Beekeeping dogs.
I love it. Adventures in hiking. It's
Yes.
It's something that we could probably talk about every
It'll be a
week.
reoccurring theme here on Have Such a Good Day.
No, really, Los Angeles is known for its urban hiking. It is full of endless. I mean, there's big parks, small parks. It is so great. I mean, you know, we're in the desert, so a lot of it is hot. A lot of cactus. But I mean, I that's one thing I love about Los Angeles is the urban hiking. And
Yes, it was definitely an adventure today, and not a bad one. Just strange, just strange.
Yeah.
It was just I had
like
a lot
it.
of strange connections today.
Hey, man, if you don't get out of the house, a lot of those strange things will never happen.
Everything's just gonna be really bland. Yeah. All right, so in the world of media, I have a feeling you have some news for me.
Oh gosh, I sure do. Actually, you know, it's funny.
Good segue, ladies.
So so there was an article this week actually that you know, and this is not news. There's a lot going on in the streaming world. There's a lot of new players, and there's been a massive physical media drop, which means DVD sales, Blu-rays, that kind of thing, which is completely not surprising. But you know, there's like this new Disney channel that's launching, Disney Plus, and the new Criterion Collection is now online as of, I believe, yesterday. And what's cool about that is, if you don't know what the Criterion Collection is, it's been around since like, you know, 84 approximately. You know, they kind of cornered a high-end market. You know, they had very beautifully restored films, like classics, you know, like a lot of foreign films, a lot of like classic films. And, you know, originally, they were part of the film, what was it called? There was a streaming service that shut down, essentially. So this is great that it's going back up. I don't know if you're a big fan of some of these Criterions. I actually owned a lot of these DVDs, you know, back in the day. I have a few left. I think I've sold a lot of them. But it is honestly the coolest, biggest collection of classic and beautifully restored films. So I highly recommend checking it out. I would say there's at least 50 films on there that I want to see like right away. I would say my top 5 I'm going to start out with are the Coen Brothers' Blood Simple, is one of my favorites. Jewel and Jim, which is one of my favorite French films. My list contains a lot of French films like 400 Blows and Breathless, a lot of like Godard and Truffaut. But there's some Wong Kar-wai on there, In the Mood for Love, if you're a fan. There's something on there for everybody. But it's interesting because these existed during a very DVD heavy era. And, I think, people, it's like people collected them like baseball cards, and now, it's all online. There's, huge evolution here.
Well, I assume that there's some licensing stuff that's changed recently because Criterion has bopped around a bit. Like I remember Hulu had Criterion, maybe not the full collection.
Filmstruck. It was Filmstruck. Yeah,
Filmstruck.
that was the online service.
There you go. And I at the time was I don't even think I was paying for Hulu. Maybe I was in order to get Criterion, but I want to say it was free and just ad supported. But yeah, it's a I don't actually know who's behind the collection, like who's on the board, who gets, why a film becomes, is deemed worthy of being part of Criterion. But I do know that it's like, it's artsy stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's good movies.
Yep.
Again, a lot of non-American movies.
A lot of prominent directors that have won awards, that have a sort of a bunch of films that affected audiences in a big way, like Polanski, Truffaut, Wong Kar-wai, the ones that I mentioned earlier, Coen Brothers, that have maybe like a bit of a what do you call it? Sort of an archival of really good movies that everybody loves.
All right, so CriterionChannel.com. So, all right, interesting.
And this just happened this week, so I'm pretty excited about it.
All right, well, whoever's behind this whole Criterion Channel, show yourselves, and we'll.
Well, so a lot of the Criterion collection is Janus. I don't know if you remember that, like their Janus titles are just like this. That's their the company that contribute a lot of their titles. Warner Brothers, Sony, MGM, a lot of independent distributors. There's like 1,600 movies. I think right now there's probably they're gonna add more.
Right. Yeah. No. I just wonder who's behind the Criterion Channel. Is it all of the companies that have?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Well, we'll
get back to you on that.
Yeah, we will.
So if you guys know, email us at hi@havesuchagoodday.com. And speaking of email,
yes,
we got a bunch this week. I'm going to talk about one in particular by Mark. He's referring to the conversation we had about voluntary childlessness, that Reddit that I talked about. I think it was last week. And so he writes in and he says, I have one kid. We joke that he's 51% sweet. I find it amazing that we can just learn stuff and say new things. Seeing the world through his innocent, curious eyes is such fun activity. Our lives transformed into constant sacrifices, but I do find the rewards are so huge. That said, I totally agree that raising a human isn't for everybody. If I learned that a scientist was on his or her way of figuring out the cure for cancer, I would absolutely discourage that person from having a kid. Like you mentioned, I've also learned how rude it is to suggest/ask a couple why they haven't tried to start a family. Also, the world is awful right now. Until I see things getting better, I'm very turned off to the idea of bringing a kid into this world. It was bad before we had him, but I feel like it's really bad right now. And this is, he went on to talk a little bit more about pets and various things, but I won't read the whole thing. But thank you for writing in, Mark. This is good stuff.
I think Mark has a kid. Sounds like just one. But echoes a lot of the sentiments that I know I have.
Exactly. That's what I wrote him back and said that. We talk about this stuff a lot.
Yeah. And so, thanks. Especially for being so open about how you feel about things and how there are a lot of reasons to live the life that you need to live in order to be happy and sustainable and, not fall into the trap of I don't know. Yeah. Why other people do what they do. We have lots of options.
Yeah. And it's like we talked about at the top of the show. It's like the paths that you choose, it's okay. Like that's the thing is like we should all be appreciative of the different paths that we take because we're all different. And it's okay. Either way, we probably spend a lot more time going on the urban hikes than people with kids. There's a lot of, maybe that's not the best example.
There was actually a stroller on the hike today, which is a little bit weird because the terrain is not very stroller friendly. But okay.
Did it have like thick,
Nah.
wheels?
It was just, I don't really know what they were doing. I think maybe they just had never been there before and we're like, ooh.
That's funny.
It's a little more hikey than we thought it would be with a little janky stroller. But yeah, it's funny. I mention this only because I know some people know how I feel, where it's like, someone has a baby, all of a sudden it's, Facebook has exploded. Like, it's just like baby vomit, look at my baby, lots of hashtags, baby's 2 months old, pictures with the number 2 being like 2 months old, like, because we all need to like make sure that we're on the schedule. And it's so easy for me to, be snarky about it.
Sure. I
don't actually hate it because, again, I don't know what it feels like, and maybe I would do the same thing. I just don't know. But it's easy to be snarky where you're like, oh my God. And someone that I know had a baby recently, and she's just like the worst offender I've seen to this day. And I mentioned to a mutual friend of ours, and he was kind of like, oh, Sarah, she's happy. And I immediately was like, I'm a monster.
Well, people do it with their pets too.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I do. And we're all monsters and we're all overshares or whatever. But it was one of those moments where I was like because the mutual friend of ours is a parent, and he was like, you're being a dick. And I was sort of like, all right.
Well, I've known people that have
I'll
said...
stop that. You're right.
But I've actually known people that have said the same thing as you. It drove them crazy when people would overpost their kids. And then they're like, they were pregnant. I'm never going to do this. I'm not going to do this. They totally did it. And then they admitted, can't help it. It's just something that clicks.
And that's okay. That it's there's no right or wrong. It was just one of those moments where I was like, oh, I'm preaching to the wrong choir right now. This choir doesn't want to hear my bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
They were like, shut up, Sarah.
Let's just all live in harmony
Shut
somehow.
up, Sarah, and let her love her child. Where I'm like, okay. Sorry.
I think we can all find peace and serenity with our differences. I think that's a huge lesson.
I do too. And in fact, that's probably a good way to end this episode.
I totally agree.
Because we're on an upswing.
Yeah, man.
Reminder, hi@havesuchagooddday.com is our email address. We love getting your feedback, your questions, your comments. Keep them coming.
It tingles our ASMR spot when you email us.
It really does. Non-sexually usually,
yeah.
But no promises. Also, patreon.com/havesuchagooddday. Tell a friend if you know somebody who's got $1 or more that they would like to be part of the bigger part of the show. Send them our way, and we'd love to have them. And thank you in advance.
And give us a review on iTunes. That's another ASMR thing for me, at least. I love a new iTunes review.
Heather's like, I love that sound of new patrons and iTunes reviews. See,
I'm weird like that.
Make Heather happy. We're not asking much. All right. Well, for $5 and up patrons, bonus topic coming up in just a few. But for everybody else, thanks for watching and listening. I'm Sarah.
I'm Heather.
We'll see you next week.
Have such a good day.